Hello. Welcome back from spring break. I know I'm not here right now, so I'm going to walk you through three types of problems on this review sheet to remind you of what we were doing before break. So you can see in the directions here that you're going to solve either with the quadratic formula, square root method, or factoring method. So these are the three things we did before break. Each one will be used 4 times. So I'm going to explain how I'm deciding which method to use for a couple of these problems. Okay, so for number 1, I want you to rewrite it here real quick. So let's rewrite it. AB squared minus 21b plus 10 equals 0. We'll just go ahead and cross off the original problem. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is multiply first times last. So I have 8 times 10, so 80b squared and negative 21b. Okay, we need to find something that multiplies to 81 but adds up to negative 21. That means we need to write some factors out for 80. So 1 times 80, 2 times 40, 4 times 20, 5 times 16, if you divide that in your calculator. Oh, that looks like it should work. Okay, we have 5b and 16b, and they both need to be negative, so they add up to negative 21. Okay, so since my number in the front of b squared is a number other than 1, that means that I have to do my long factoring method. I cannot do my shortcut here. All right, so I keep my first, I keep my last. So AB squared stays and 10 stays. Now I'm going to write my two new factors in between. So minus 5b minus 10b plus 10. I meant 16, sorry. There we go. That's a 16. Okay, so now I'm going to go straight to the underlining and squiggling. So underline and squiggle. If you want, you can divide your problem in half here. So the biggest number I can take out of 8 and 5 is just a 1. And I can take out a b from both. Between negative 16 and 10, I can take out a 2. I'm going to make that a negative because the negative sign's in front of that second half. It's in front of the squiggle part. Okay, so then I have 1b parentheses and then minus 2 parentheses. Then I'm going to divide. So 8 divided by 1 is 8. And then b, 5 divided by 1 is negative 5. Then here I'll divide negative 16 over negative 2 is positive 8. B, and then minus 5. Okay, so don't forget our equals 0 here. All right, so my parentheses match. That's good. 8b minus 5. And then parentheses b minus 2 equals 0. And then I'm going to split up each part and write my two little equations. Okay, so I'll do that in blue. So I have 8b minus 5 equals 0. So add 5 to both sides. 8b equals 5. Divide both sides by 8. So b is equal to 5/8. Okay, that's my first exact solution. Then you're going to type that into your calculator to get my decimal. So 5 divided by 8. All right, you should get 0.625. I'm going to round to my nearest tenth. I'll put 0.6. Okay, then my other solution, I need to set this part equal to 0. 5b minus 2 equals 0. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. It's a little bit easier. So b is equal to 2. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the method. We just used the factoring method for this problem. I was able to factor because I could find two numbers here that worked. If I can't find anything that works for my x, then I know I have to use the quadratic formula. So that's the difference between those two methods. Try and see if you can factor. If not, then you're using quadratic formula. Today, you have to use each method 4 times. Okay, that's the rule for today. All right. Number 3, let's look at this one. This one looks kind of weird. When we first saw this problem, some of you said, let's box it out. We don't want to box it. It's already in nice factored form. when I have these parentheses and just as x squared, this is telling me I'm going to use my square root method. The square root method. Okay, so first thing I want to do is get rid of everything besides the x squared if possible. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. I have x plus 2 squared is equal to 9. Okay, I want to get rid of that squared. The opposite of squared is square root. I'm square rooting both sides. This squared right here is canceling with the square root. I'm just left with x plus 2. I write that twice. All right, the square root of 9 here is positive 3 and negative 3. So one positive 3 goes here, negative 3 goes here, and I'm going to solve both of these two equations. So x is equal to 1 and x is equal to negative 5. All right, so my exact solutions are 1 and negative 5. My approximate then, you can either write the same thing again or you can write NA. It doesn't matter to me. All right, so that's a square root type of problem. What I would do first, I recommend, is going through this worksheet and figuring out which 4 problems are the square root method. Or at least you can write those down. And then you can focus on the factoring versus quadratic formula. Okay, then the third one I'm going to do with you today is number 4. So the rule for the rule for the factoring or quadratic formula method is that it has to be equal to 0. Has to be equal. So if it's not, you need to make it like that. So what I'm going to do first is subtract 18 over to the left side. So I have 2x squared, then minus 6x minus 18 equals 0. So make sure here that your equation is in standard form. Your x squared is first, then your x, then your plain number. Okay, so I'm going to do first times last. So I have negative 36x squared and negative 6. All right, I want to find two numbers that multiply to be negative 36 but add up to 6. I'll do it right here. All right, so 1 times 36, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 4 times 9, and then 6 times 6. Okay, which pair of numbers can add up to negative 6? None of them, right? I can't make any of them equal to negative 6. So this means that I cannot factor it. I'm going to have to use the quad formula or quadratic formula. Okay. So I'm going to cross this out because I'm not using the factoring part anymore. I'm using my quad formula, which I'm going to I'll write it down here. Remember, think x equals opposite b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, that one. Okay, so I'm going to label a equals 2, b equals negative 6, c equals negative 18. That's a negative 18. All right. So I'm going to plug in. So I have opposite of b. Opposite of negative 6 is positive 6 plus or minus negative 6 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 18. All over 2 times 2. Okay, first thing you're going to do is focus on the highlighted part inside the radical. Right here. That's what you're typing in first. Type that into your calculator. So parentheses, negative 6, parentheses squared, minus 4 times 2 times negative 18. All right, what number do you get? You should get 180. So I have 6. Oops. Come on. There we go. 6. Plus or minus square root of 180 over 4. Okay, so now, if you take the square root of 180, is that a perfect square? No, it's not. Okay, so what I'm going to do is factor tree, the 180. I'm going to erase this so I have more room on this side here. So 180, break that down and see if you can simplify that radical. Let's say 2 times 90, 45 times 2, 3 times 15, and 3 times 5. Okay, so I have 2 2s. Oh, sorry. These 2 2s here, I'm going to circle those guys there. And then I have 2 pairs of, or 1 pair of 3. Okay, I'm going to take out a 2 from this group. I'm going to take out a 3 from this group. And then what's left inside the radical is just that lonely 5. Okay, so this here is equal to 2 times 3 is 6 root 5. All right, so I'm replacing this 6 root 5 with square root of 180. I'm just, simplifying this. Okay, I'm running out of room. I'm going to go down below here. Scroll down. Okay, so I have 6 plus or minus. Man, I'm struggling, aren't I? All right, 6 plus or minus. Instead of square root of 180, I'm going to write 6 root 5 all over 4. Okay, now what's next? Hopefully you're thinking, okay, it's that triangle thing. The triangle of power, I can divide each one of these by 2. Okay, so I have 3 plus or minus 3 root 5. Then 4 divided by 2 is 2. Okay, so then I'm going to split those up to make my exact solution. So I have 3 plus 3 root 5 over 2, 3 minus 3 root 5 over 2. I'm going to type each one of those into my calculator. So to type it in, you need to say 3 plus 3 square root, so second square root of 5, enter, and then divided by 2. So you should get 4.85. I'm going to round that up to 4.9. Then the next one, 3 minus 3, second square root of 5, enter, or equals, divided by 2. And I get negative 1.85. I'm going to round that to negative 1.9. Okay, so those are 3 problems I just walked you through. I recommend starting with the square root ones, getting those 4 out of the way. Then the last problems, you can decide if you can find factors, then you factor it. If there's no factors that possible, then you're going to use the quadratic formula. Okay, good luck.